This is interesting. I wondered out loud on the air yesterday who Chris Matthews' wife was, running against. Was there a primary? What's the state of the race? She's running for the House of Representatives. She's running for Chris Van Hollen's old seat. He's running for the Senate. This is in Maryland, and she's running in the Democratic primary for his seat. No? Yes? No? Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I shouldn't be looking in that direction. I should be looking in this direction. So anyhow, there's a petition over at MoveOn.org to suspend Chris Matthews from hardball because of his constant shilling for Hillary Clinton. I'm quoting from the petition. Esquire sharply criticized Matthews. This is from a piece in the Daily Caller, which is a notorious right-wing rag, but still written by Peter Hassan. The magazine Esquire sharply criticized Matthews' recent interview with Clinton as, quote, ahistorical and out of bounds for his attacks on Sanders. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Kathleen Matthews, Chris's wife, who worked closely with the Clinton Foundation for 4 years during her time at Marriott, which she just recently left to enter the congressional race, has blown away her primary opponents in terms of fundraising. By the end of 2015, she had raised $1.5 million, $1,569,092, FEC records show. Only one of her 8 primary opponents, State Senator Jamie Raskin, who's, by the way, he's a Bernie Sanders progressive, although he's raising money. But I mean, he's a genuine, solid progressive. He's the only one who has raised more than $1 million against her. And Bloomberg noted that 2 years ago, 12 families have donated to every single Clinton campaign and charity. And of the 12 families, the 2 families that have donated the most to the Clintons are both funding Kathleen Matthews' campaign. 4 families from Bloomberg's list of biggest Clinton donators have given to the Matthews campaign. None of the 4 live in Maryland, where Matthews is running. And then they get into the names of the people. And, of the 12 families that have funded every Clinton venture ever, the Schusters, this is Elaine and Gerald Schuster, ranks second in the amount of money given to the Clintons. They've hosted a fundraiser for Hillary. Bloody, 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 bloody. So anyhow, the bottom line is, Chris Matthews' wife is apparently running as the conservadem. I mean, I went over and I looked at her website, and nice positions on women's rights, nice positions on the environment, nice, good practical kind of big D Democrat stuff. I couldn't see anything on there about income inequality, about campaign finance reform, about a rigged system, about banking, about economics. Maybe it's there, maybe it's been put there since yesterday. But in that context, understanding that, now I think that what Chris Matthews said on this program yesterday makes a little more sense. So just listen. You have been pretty outspoken in using the word socialism around Bernie. I'm curious.
Oh, it's his word, not mine.
I understand. Democratic socialism specifically.
No, socialism is what he's always believed in.
That's fine. I'm curious what specific socialist policies that he advocates that you oppose.
Let's run through. It's not about me opposing.
Or that you are concerned about.
It's not even concerned. They should be known by the voter. He said we will have government-paid tuition for major state and universities and colleges paid for by the government.
We had that when you and I were kids, Chris.
Listen, I don't want to argue.
Why not?
I'm just going to tell you, because I'm going to tell you what else.
Okay.
Healthcare for life, government paid.
Right.
Huge new benefits in Social Security, government paid. If that's not socialism, I don't know what it is.
No, Social Security is definitely socialism. I don't.
We have nothing to argue about. It's socialism.
Yeah.
If that's what he wants to sell, we'll see if it works.
Well, it worked for FDR, didn't it?
FDR was very concerned about building Social Security as first of all, it did not come out of general revenue. Number 2, it was dedicated from payroll taxes. So the people, when they retired, had basically paid into the system. It was a sense of self-reliance that he thought was very important. He also thought it was very important to not be means tested. So Roosevelt was very much he was a liberal. I don't think he was a socialist.
Huh. Interesting. So you don't think of Social Security as a socialist program?
No, it's a program, but it's not a whole socialist philosophy. Bernie basically covers the waterfront in what he thinks the government should be doing.
Well, he doesn't think the government should be involved in the means of production and supply. I mean, it's not Marxism.
That hasn't come up yet.
Oh, really? It hasn't come up yet. Oh well, I just find it interesting. There's always a little more to the story. It's like the guy who wrote the Commodity Futures Modernization. Well, I was going to get into my whole Gary Gensler thing. He's the CFO for Hillary's campaign, but now I'm starting to sound like a Bernie partisan. But here's what I think is going on. In fact, let me share this. I think this goes way beyond Hillary or Bernie. I think this is, and the essence of it can be found over in today's Village Voice. Holly Wood, a young woman, a millennial, writes. She quotes Madeleine Albright, and she quotes Debbie Wasserman Schultz saying, here I see a complacency among the generation of young women whose entire lives have been lived after Roe v. Wade was decided. She quotes Gloria Steinem. And then she says, there seems to be no shortage of bizarrely sexist assumptions as to why I, a millennial feminist, am not voting for Hillary Clinton. But speaking as a millennial feminist, and let me assure you, none of them is accurate. Granted, the span of my political biography is only as long as it took Howard Dean to go from human rights crusader to insurance lobbyist. By the way, have you seen Howard Dean introduced on I think he's on MSNBC regularly. Have you seen him introduced as an insurance lobbyist or as a lobbyist for the insurance industry? I mean, he is now, right? This is how he makes his living. Has he been introduced as such? Anyway, back to... She said, the reason for my political disaffection is plain. I've spent my entire millennial life watching the Democratic Party claw its way up the, I'll insert a word, backside of corporate America. There's no persuading me that the Democratic establishment from where it sits now has the capacity to represent me or my values. And I'm not alone. According to a 2013 poll by Harvard's Kennedy School, 3 out of 5 of my peers now believe politicians prioritize private gain over public good. The economy is rigged. She says, if millennials are coming out in droves to support Bernie Sanders, it's not because we're tripping balls on Geritol. No, Sanders' clever strategy of shouting the exact same thing for 40 years simply strikes a chord among the growing number of us who now agree. Washington is bought, and every time Goldman Sachs buys another $1 million slice of the next American presidency, we can't help but drop the needle onto Bernie's broken record. The economy is rigged. Democracy is corrupt. The billionaires are on the warpath. And, this is, I think that what's going on is in 2016, and this is, by the way, probably more than anything else, a product of Citizens United. And I don't think it's at all what John Roberts thought he was going to get with Citizens United. But I think in 2016, you can't run a 1992 campaign or even a 2008 campaign or even a 2012 campaign. I think you've got to run a 2016 campaign. And in 2016, the American electorate is saying enough. We do not want to live in a plutocracy, in an aristocracy, in an autocracy, in an oligarchy. We don't want to live in a political system where a small number of very rich people and institutions, corporations, control everything that happens in our political sphere, from literally the local school board all the way up to the White House. We don't want that. That is not our idea of America. I think that's where the millennials are at, and I think that that's where a lot of Americans are at. And I think this just goes way beyond Bernie or Hillary or anything like that. To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.